So now, it says we are live from Petaluma, Oh wait, no, that's not us. Come on, go back to the watch page, please. Please stand by. Oh my. Listen to my radio voice. This sounds very much like my regular voice. And there's no one to enjoy it. Yet. Maybe. Doo-doo-doo. We should play some sweet elevator music so when all this stuff finally does buffer up. Oh, well, YouTube just stuck another tweet on my Twitter account, so we know that works.
That's cool.
And we are most definitely live. Let me see. Let me do some careful muting and see how we sound.
Yeah, I had to mute you because it was echoing weird. Or it sounded weird.
Yet.
Let's see.
Maybe.
It's still buffering. I set it to 240p, so it would not have that issue, but it is.
Oh, well, I'm sending it 1080p at 60 frames. Because why not? Why should we use 30 frames? The background image is, 30 frames. The text is static, but, screw all that. We're going to send it 60 frames. Because we are men. And men have a high frame rate, apparently. So, for the 0 of y'all that have tuned in, I am Joe of the West.
And I am Zeal of Sparta.
Those are obviously not our real names, but screw it. Privacy and such. So, I think we're going to mostly talk about some random stuff. We do have a Google Docs shared to sort of keep us on track and not make this a 4 or 5 hour watch fest or ramble fest. So I think we should hold this till the end maybe, but one of the topics is what should we name this podcast series if it becomes a series? So if anybody has any ideas, let us know. So the first story I have here is about this hacker guy, and I don't know if I want to call him a hacker. I think I want to call him a moron, and we'll get into why.
We'll just call him the bold security analyst.
Yeah, okay. That's kind.
Yes.
But basically, this guy claims to have broken into he says he wedged up a panel, plugged in his laptop, and used the in-flight entertainment to hack into the flight controls. At which point, I do have to first say BS, but I don't. It is possible that somebody designed it that way.
Honestly, knowing what I do know, with my engineering type background and systems background, somebody somewhere did not have, if this is all accurate, that the wiring diagrams led him to believe that the controls are ultimately accessible across the plane if you're sitting near one of these access boxes. Someone made a boneheaded mistake in the design of the plane, first of all. And they should maybe use 2 satellite data connections. One for the passenger cabin and one for the avionics of the plane. Because if they're shared, if they're using the same bandwidth, they, from a technical standpoint, can be connected, and that's not good if someone can, in fact, hack into the system or plug in with a custom connector this analyst had used.
Right, and it's entirely possible. And there's actually a similar problem if you've heard about the car issue where supposedly you can remotely access people's cars, which you have to have physical access first, which this guy obviously had because he was on the plane. So I could see where the engineers may have cut some corners or saved some money or value engineered where they're physically together, and they are saying that you can't access the avionics from the passenger section, but that could mean that they just have a firewall up, and it's like, well, there's a firewall, and that's what he did claim is he broke through the firewall. But I'm looking here, and this is part of why I say either way he's kind of a moron, because like quoting this Wired article, Chris Roberts, this guy, a security researcher with One World Labs, told the FBI agent during an interview in February that he hacked the in-flight entertainment system, or IFE, on an airplane and overwrote the code on the plane's thrust management computer while aboard the flight. Okay, that part right there by itself is a moron, even if it's totally true. And then he was able to issue the climb command and make the plane briefly change course. That, one, I would hope the pilots would notice if the plane started moving sideways, which is what would happen if he, supposedly he changed the commands for the one engine, and if one engine gains power, a big plane like that would just start shifting sideways. But the other thing is, he did this in our post 9/11 world, and then went and told the FBI.
Yes.
So
that is pretty boneheaded in itself. Basically saying you did something highly illegal
and dangerous,
whether you did it or not.
Because that's the thing. Even if I had full, and I'm a software developer too, so even if I had, full documentation on the airplane, and I had one to play with at home, which obviously this guy didn't. I'm not going to, while the plane's working, overwrite any of the commands, any code that has anything related to do to the flights.
Yes.
So
it's just very dangerous in itself to alter in any way the control of the plane and its behavior, because it might cause a misinformed reaction by a pilot, or it could essentially disturb the behavior of the plane, especially if the hacker, in this case, alters something. It makes a miscalculation or a calculation using some information that he is not very knowledgeable about. Um, Ultimately screwing up the machine, for lack of a better word.
right, and there's no way this guy could have possibly known if he issued a command for which he says overwrote code, which I don't think he could have really overwritten code, because if he did, then it wouldn't function properly for the rest of the flight.
Right.
How is that going to react if you... I mean, how's the plane supposed to react if it's on autopilot, because that's how these things work now, and the plane's computer, the autopilot's trying to issue commands, but those commands aren't being respected. They aren't being honored. They aren't executing properly. I can't see that being really a test case, which we're diving too technical, I think. But I just I hope this guy's just seeking attention. And the other reason why, and I didn't include this link because I've lost it, but he was tweeting about it during his flight. So he was making these changes, and he was making jokes about displaying a message that the oxygen mask had dropped in the pilot's, in the cockpit.
Yeah.
So, the mask in the passenger section had dropped.
And even I did not read the article entirely, but would not wouldn't there be even more evidence from witnesses about such an event happening? If the mask would drop in front of a person, they might freak out.
Well, he wasn't saying that he was going to make the mask drop. He just, while he was in there, he could have issued the command to tell the pilots that the mask had dropped. Basically, tell the pilots that the cabin pressure was out of whack, and
I see.
basically tell them they had an emergency situation when there was none.
He was suggesting that he could possibly do it. He didn't actually do it.
No, he didn't.
Okay.
I don't think he did. He did anything that would have been harmful. At least not unless something went wrong. But my point is, it could have been, because what he did change probably would have been easily corrected. And the autopilot, I guess the autopilot would have adjusted, kind of like in a car, if you set cruise control or if you buy cheap gas one day and you buy good gas the next day, the engine just adjusts. It doesn't work as well or properly for a few minutes, and then it goes back to working.
At one point, does machine learning take over?
Right.
And by design, what commands would take precedent over the other? It's just like autopilot should, in theory, disengage if the pilot or co-pilot takes control of the stick in an emergency maneuver situation.
Right.
Would his supposedly overwriting of the code give him precedence over the autopilot?
Well, the autopilot, the way I understand how these are supposed to work, if a pilot or anybody, I guess, grabs the stick, they're in control. Right. No matter what any of the other, because they're not supposed to grab the stick unless they're on takeoff or landing or something has went wrong.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm gonna follow this story because I'm curious what's gonna happen. But on a side note, that is pretty hilarious. This was American Airlines that this happened on, and they put out a bounty program for people to hack their website. But in a certain way of reading it, you could have been saying that they would pay you money to hack anything, including their planes.
So that was maybe...
No, he wasn't on this bounty program. But it is, the timing is funny. Because it doesn't say that, but you could read it in a certain way. And they had to come out and say, no, we're saying hack our website and tell us the problem and we'll give you frequent flyer miles or whatever.
Right. I can kind of see him misinterpreting this in one way and sort of blabbing about it to possibly get attention to say, hey, I might deserve a little money.
Yeah, unfortunately that's not how these bounty programs work. You know, if I go, like Reddit has one, I don't remember what their deals are, but if I found a flaw on Reddit and then I just started tweeting about it, I wouldn't get the money. Because one, I've told the world, so the world, including Reddit, knows. And two, you're not. The whole point is so they can fix the bugs and clear them up.
Right.
Instead of having people, attack them.
Yeah, there's a certain degree of secrecy and care that needs to be taken in letting the airline or the client, as I should probably call them, know about the security flaw. If you just blab to the world about it, you're doing the exact opposite of what they want. You're basically defeating the purpose of the bounty.
Right. So that's probably enough on that, because I think we're going to start talking circles, because we know,
Right.
Neither one of us agree with what he did. I'm dubious on whether he actually did what he said he did. So we could keep talking about this forever.
Yeah.
Now I've got another security story, if we're going to stay on hacker news.
This one I have not read at all.
Okay, the one about Venom, about the virtualization bug.
Mm-hmm.
This one's pretty funny. Basically, the way virtual machines work is you don't really have a floppy drive or a hard drive or a graphics card or any of that stuff. It has a driver that pretends to be all these things. Well, back, I don't remember. I don't even think it says it here. No, it doesn't really say it here. But a long time ago, floppy disks were virtualized from this one group, or from this one driver. They all got it. This driver was extended and modified, and basically almost everybody uses it.
Right.
Well, it includes, you can basically do an old style buffer overflow attack and get to basically the framework that the hypervisor is what it's called. It's the thing that all the virtual machine that manages the virtual machines. So you've got your real machine, you run a hypervisor. It's transparent, you don't see it, but a hypervisor runs and it manages all the resources for the virtual machines. So you could do a buffer overflow attack on a floppy disk, on the floppy disk driver, and basically exit out of your virtual machine and get into other virtual machines. This one's gotten very popular lately, and I think it's because of the name, which is, I think everybody's saying it's because of the name, because it's purely theoretical. No one's managed to actually do it. So, this is almost a non-story, but I did want to mention it because it is kind of funny because it's basically because of virtual floppy disk, there's a potential.
Irony.
Yeah.
Our tech irony segment.
Yeah, kind of. But these kind of things, they should be addressed. But you're not going to. I don't think you're ever going to have this issue, or anybody's going to have this issue.
It's possibly a non-issue due to lack of saturation because of who uses floppy drives anymore.
Well, the floppy drive, even if you don't have a virtual floppy drive, if you write to that port, it's still sending the data to the hypervisor. It's just normally if you're writing to the port the floppy drive lives in, the virtual one does, then what's the word I'm looking for? It sends the data up to the hypervisor, but nothing is done with the data normally because there's no virtual floppy drive. Kind of like you could send data to a serial port on your computer, but if your computer doesn't have a serial port, nothing happens. But you could still do this buffer overflow attack. But what I expect to happen is it's going to be patched. We're never going to see an exploit, and it's going to just be another entry in the long list of exploits.
Right.
So, all right. I guess not a lot of comments on that. Okay.
Sorry, multitasking a little bit here.
Well, that's fine. But the next story is yours, unless we're skipping over it.
All right, I'm going to briefly cover it. I read this when it first came out, May 18th, which was a few days ago. I thought it was pretty interesting. This company, I believe, is called Vector, and it is a company looking to make a smartwatch, and I believe they are in the final stages and will be releasing it sometime. They have a design that looks pretty traditional, so at first glance it may not look like a smartwatch, but a regular watch instead. That should bring in a broad audience. And one of the advantages to this smartwatch that would help it maintain that broad audience is its stated 30-day potential battery life. And this company, Vector, they want to hold on. The company behind Vector. Well, the Vector watch is the name of the smartwatch. It's not the company itself. Once I find it, I will quote it out again. But they want to be the #2 smartwatch behind Apple, the Apple smartwatch. which just for the immediate battery comparison, the Apple smartwatch has one of the worst battery life, or worst. I ran off the rails. The battery life of the Apple Watch is pretty atrocious. It's
Yeah.
stated to get up to 18 hours of battery life, which means you will be charging it at least once every day, maybe twice. And that kind of defeats the capability of all of its sensors because it will start poisoning the sample material for data. If you're trying to collect um, data on yourself, like your heart rate or in some cases oxygen. I do not know if it measures oxygen level. I think it does because it uses infrared lasers. It may use infrared lasers.
Are you talking about the Apple Watch?
The Apple Watch.
Yeah, I think I've heard that it does.
Yes. I've heard some things about it, read some things about it, but I'm not definitive on it. I never really investigated the Apple Watch because of certain overt issues that I had with it, like the limitation to newer Apple phones, the iPhones. I think 5S is the oldest model, the 18-hour battery life, and the lofty price for what is essentially a class of toys or enthusiasts for fun items. It starts at $350. And one thing that made this Vector Watch interesting is it looks traditional, uh, and it's supposed to be user friendly. They claim it's user friendly, where you can just see brief notifications on screen, so you do not have to pull out your phone. Whereas the Apple Watch, you need you see bits and pieces of information on it, but oftentimes, from what I've heard from users, they have to pull out their iPhone anyways to really understand what the message was or to do a certain task. And the Apple Watch relies specifically on the iPhone, and the iPhone is doing most of the work. Yet it's not doing, although the Apple Watch is not doing much itself, it still suffers from that poor battery life, and other devices do not have that problem as much. Another thing, the Vector Watch wants to be cross-platform. They should work with iPhones, Androids, and Windows phones. And in order to put this device together, they consulted some people in that have been in the watch business for decades. They consulted the CEO uh, of Timex, who back in the 90s actually tried making a smartwatch. But one issue they had back then was the battery life, and another issue was the pure bulk and lack of um, capability from the existing hardware at the time.
Hmm. Yeah, I was about to ask you which, because it didn't look like, I couldn't tell which platform it was for, and I'm kind of curious how they're going to get around Apple's pretty locked down on hardware access, and I would imagine that an Apple Watch or any kind of smartwatch would have to have pretty low level access to be that functional.
Right.
So, all right. Well, that's interesting, and
Yeah, that's something I may cover more in depth as a smartwatch segment for our next podcast. I'm going to put together more information with a few smartwatch, uh, a few of the leading smartwatches out there. There's also the Moto 360, the Pebble, and the Microsoft. I think it's called the Health Band, the Smart Band. I'm actually
right.
interested in purchasing that one myself because it does a number of things that the Apple Watch does in other watches, and sometimes more than the Apple Watch. Like the way it displays notifications, it still has a heart rate monitor. Oh, yeah, the Apple Watch does not have a GPS in it. So you cannot
Ah,
use it like a Fitband, like a Fitbit.
but it has to be near your phone anyway, right?
Yes.
So it could use your phone's GPS. It
Yeah,
looks like to me the Apple Watch is basically a second screen for your iPhone.
kind
What?
of, sort of. I think that is what it is. And from looking at the interface, it is a little weird. I think having to use a rotary dial in order to navigate a cloud of bubbles seems a bit unintuitive at first.
Yeah, I think there's too much on it. What I'd want from my smartwatch would be a handful of common smartwatch themed apps like the health stuff would be handy, or um, navigation would be handy. But
Right.
and messaging, even I'm not even thinking. A lot of people I know use Dick Tracy as an example. The Dick Tracy watch. Have you ever seen the old comics? It's a kind of a Skype call video. It's a video call on your wrist, but his used obviously his used 1950s and 60s technology. So it was a
Right.
radio, just a basically a two-way video radio. That would be handy, but there's only so many applications for a watch, I think.
Right. And I think the industry is trying to explore that, and it's coming in various forms to do that, like the Microsoft Band, the Apple Watch, the Fitbit, the is the wearables. It's the new body-mounted accessories that is um, a fleshing field or a fleshing category. It's trying to define itself, and there's various degrees of going about it. And I think the Vector, based off of what I know at this time, is a good entry because it is still actually a watch, where most of the other devices, they're not really a watch.
Hmm.
They emphasize smartphone capabilities in a small package that just happens to be mounted on your wrist. But I believe, if you're going to enter the smart watch category and be a definitive device, you have to start off with the features of your predecessors, which is actual watches that have been around for centuries, and they have worked out an ideal package. And some styles, usually analog, works for people. Uh, it's not as simple as like a digital radio style clock where you have three or four numbers with a colon in the middle.
Right.
But people get that. They see the watch. They can glance at it. It has excellent readability in almost any light. And if you're in a low light situation, you can have something to backlight it. One stated problem in the article, the ZDNet article, which is where I read about this watch, is the Apple Watch has poor readability in bright sunlight, whereas a focus of the Vector watch is its readability in most light. But yeah, it's something I want to go back to, maybe in the next two episodes,
Okay.
because I like this category and I think watches are interesting.
Okay. Well,
And
Destiny. I know
Destiny,
nothing about Destiny other than everybody has plays it except me.
a lot of people play it. There has been far more purchases of it as of late, and it's a very fun first-person shooter that has some ambitious goals by its creators, Bungie Studios, based in Washington, Seattle, Washington, I believe. the creators of Halo, Myth, uh, or maybe it wasn't Myth. It was, I know there's Marathon and a few other games of note over its history. Now, this game is not Halo. A lot of people have been expecting it to be Halo, with your little companion, trying to draw comparisons to the little ghost, which is like a flying electronic mode of light in the form of a small machine. He is your companion and he helps you throughout the journey. But what I want to talk about with Destiny here is the House of Wolves expansion came out this past Tuesday, and I wanted to share a few of my first impressions with uh, the new expansion. It has some nice improvements that people who have been playing the game, uh, who would like to have a fresh experience or refreshing of the experience, I think they will be satisfied with it. They have altered the drop rates of items, especially no, they modified all of the drops by increasing it 100%, so things drop twice as often, which helps alleviate the pain of some not getting the loot they wanted. Like a friend of mine who I won't mention yet. Um, but before I go off topic, there's far more weapons and armor in this game than there was pre-expansion. There's new weapon types as well. Before, there were three special weapon types, which is kind of like a secondary weapon: shotgun, sniper rifle, and fusion rifle, which is essentially an energy beam gun that fires several rounds um, in a somewhat scattered pattern. Now there is a fourth category for that the special weapons. It is a sidearm. It's similar to the hand cannon, which is a primary. The primary weapon that the primary role that the hand cannons play as is a high impact, very large handgun, essentially, usually in the form of a revolver. Whereas these sidearms, they're just like smaller pistols. Think a hand cannon is like a 357 mag, whereas the sidearm is like your 22 caliber pistol with a bunch of bullets in it. That is an interesting new play. It's stable, it fires fast, but does not hit very hard. And on the new armor front, there are plenty of newer Fallen themed armor pieces, and um, there are some expanded content with there is expanded content with its own theme. Like, sorry, I keep getting invites in the game itself. There is a new game mode called Trials of Osiris. It is a PvP player v player uh, game mode where you gather up a fire team of three to play against another fire team of three in an elimination style matchup. You you go in, face each other on a very specific map, which is suited on Mercury near the sun. So um, you basically eliminate the other team and you cannot respawn. You have to win so many rounds to earn new armor and new bonuses, new weaponry. But if you lose three times, that's it. You are done for the week. Um, but the Trials of Osiris gets its own special armor set, including Egyptian uh, mythology themed equipment, like one of the classes, the Titan, gets a uh, Anubis like helmet, a dog's head helmet. Another has a ram. the warlock class, just to skim over that. I like a lot. I like the fact that there are many new weapons with new perks and new play styles, and there's fresh story to it as well. Uh, the new big bad boss in this storyline, the immediate storyline that you get to play in, is this big ugly guy who pretends to be the Kel of all Kels, the Kel being the leader of a fallen house. Uh, he has escaped um, a and some unknown custody with a group called the Nine, uh, somewhere out in space, and he wants to take control of all of the other houses, all of the other factions, and this big bad guy is named Skolas, and he's either extremely bold and brilliant, or he is a complete lunatic in his journey. But
So
I'm
either
going to end it
or,
there.
nowhere in
Yeah,
the middle.
yeah, it's pretty much.
Brilliant or crazy.
Or
I,
both. Yeah, maybe it is both.
I guess if you've got to be brilliant or crazy, I mean that's better than just being boring.
Hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
and without revealing any of the story, he does attempt some very gutsy maneuvers to take over the other fallen houses or take over someone else's technology altogether. Um, but yes, and there's also another special set of events called the Prison of Elders. Um, I guess I should have started this off by giving a little more background story. With Skolas escaping, he since he is the Kel of the House of Wolves, hence the name of the expansion, he re-seizes control of the House of Wolves, who have been in the reef with the queen of the race called the Awoken. Uh, they were in this reef, the asteroid belt, essentially, living side by side, not as hostile factions, but as neighbors, essentially. Well, Skolos gets out of his prison, and the House of Wolves betrays the Queen and betrays the Awoken, escaping from them and killing many of the Awoken people. So the Queen opens up the reef with, pardon me, uh, to a group called the Guardians, people who know Destiny and know who the Guardians are. Um, and the Guardians are essentially who you play as. You are a Guardian. You are a Guardian of the Light, a hero in the story, and the Guardians come to the aid of the Queen for a past favor the Queen performed for the Guardians. And you basically, as a Guardian, you go on a hunt for Skolos to stop him. And Bull and in the reef, uh, after dealing with Skolos, there are more after by the Queen and her nation of Awoken. And I actually do not have a lot of information on this yet. I haven't really, even though it's been out for less than a week, I have not spent much time on it.
Well, and I've spent zero time on it, so I've all this is completely going over my head. So
Yeah,
you
I'm
know,
trying to ride that balance of someone who has no experience with Destiny with people who have experienced it.
right. Well, it sounds like if you're a Destiny fan, it's an expansion definitely to check out. 'Cause,
Yes,
yeah,
yeah, it's really good. It feels very fresh and engaging. There's new mechanics. Like I said, with the new weapons and armor, there is new perks, new styles. Um, it's really fleshing out the game's system and how it's played. Uh, Before it did feel kind of bare, and people were getting burnt out because of the limited amount of content. But Bungie has stated several times they want to try to make the Destiny universe go about 10 years in length. Just for comparison, Halo has been around for more than 10 years. Its universe has been around that long. And World of Warcraft is another notable franchise or game, since it is just one game with multiple expansions.
right.
Its universe has just been steadily expanding for well over a decade.
Well, they had
As
a lot of up until I'd guess the Wrath of the Lich King expansion and on World of Warcraft. It they're they had a lot of source material to pull from, but
right,
now they're kind of out of source material
right,
from their previous games.
right. They are expanding the lore in its universe and playing off of uh, what are essentially hidden secrets, if you will. Excuse me.
Right,
Whereas everything leading up to the Wrath of the Lich King was a buildup of existing. Uh, there has much that has not been revealed yet, and there's stuff that has been hinted at and foreshadowed for some time. Like the first expansion, uh, the will. Let's see, Crota's End. Um, no, it's called the Dark Below. It involves Crota. He's of the Hive race, which
right,
is quite invasive. Um, there were some foreshadowing in the pre-expansion world about the events to come, but you do not you're not able to really piece together the pieces of the puzzle until you get to that point, to that first expansion. Whereas the House of Wolves, it is really expanding the story even further, playing off of pre-existing conditions in the world and bringing a whole lot to offer in terms of items, gear, aesthetics. The functionality has improved a lot, just even by a few simple tweaks and additions to the mechanics. And there was stuff planned. There was stuff planned in the original game. There was, like, for example, there were some out of bounds areas that people tried breaking into that had some of the content, but it was basically placeholder content because it did change. And it makes the game feel fresh since it is not a year old. People were getting burned out, but that's because they were feasting on the game essentially, instead of letting it be a dining experience or a slow burn.
right,
Uh, yeah, I'm trying to draw an analogy here. I think
right.
one was
Well, I get what you're
first
saying.
podcasts.
Oh
First
yeah,
podcast. Yeah.
and we have been going on Destiny for a while. I don't have a good timer going, but I think it's been close to 15 minutes now
Yes.
on just that one thing. So I think we should jump though a little bit for continuity and talk about The Witcher 3.
Hmm.
I do have the trailer here, which I will gladly play. That I've watched part of. We'll do the official trailer. I did watch the Xbox 360 gameplay video on their official one, and it looks neat. Let's go ahead and get this started. And it should be on your screen now.
from your live stream?
Yes.
Okay. It's still in the cave right now.
Okay. Well, we're about a minute ahead of the stream, so we're about to confuse everybody by talking in circles.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah,
I can
there we
see
go.
you pulling up the window. Now, this is the E3 2014 official trailer that they released over a year ago.
Yeah, did you have a link to a more modern one? Because that's the only one I found.
Well, I think that's the best one. It's the one I did see earlier. I saw two, really, just today, anyways. Um,
Well, I'm wondering. I've played part of the first Witcher game, which I really liked the story, and I liked the visuals, and I liked everything about it except for the gameplay, which is
Right.
kind of important in the game. I haven't touched The Witcher 2, even though I do own it. Is the gameplay the same on it?
I'm kind of in the same boat. I'm part of the way through the first Witcher. I'm in chapter two, really, but I've played it enough to really get some enjoyment out of it. And I've seen gameplay from the second Witcher, which is what made me realize The Witcher even existed. Was I was following the Yogscast at the time, and they started doing a Let's Play of The Witcher Two, and it looked interesting. And I can tell from watching their video, the mechanics were fleshed out in Witcher 2 uh, versus Witcher 1. And I've been playing Witcher 1 for a while. It starts off a little rough. It definitely feels bare at first, but once you get into the groove of things and start developing more abilities, then it becomes more enjoyable and more fluid. It's kind of modular in how it works. Um, it,
Yeah.
and it, of course, it is the first, being the first Witcher, it is very much a 1.0 type product. And I have the enhanced edition, so they did fix a few bugs and mechanical issues and whatnot.
Right. And
But
I should say, and I think you are on this too. I'm a PC gamer. So, like I'm showing now, the Xbox One footage, which is interesting because they had to upscale it. It even says so in the very beginning that it's dynamically scaled from 900 to 1080p, which I think is pretty funny because that doesn't really mean anything. It it's still 900p content that's just been scaled to fit on a 1080p display.
right,
Which, and that's one thing that a problem I do have with the consoles. And I'm an AV person. That's part of what I do for my day job, and it's not a problem that it's just because you have 1080p. If I can get that to kick up a little bit, there we go. Doesn't mean It doesn't mean you have to have everything 1080p. Like, there's some stuff that, I've got a 720p monitor that if I'm watching certain shows, it looks fine on. But just because if I took an episode of I Love Lucy and I threw it up on my 1080p display, it's not a 1080p, even though I scale it and everything so that it can fit the screen. It's not 1080p.
Yeah, the signal is not 1080p.
Well, the signal's 1080p, but the data's not 1080p, and that's the problem. Is it's the resolution, the fidelity, whatever term you want to use, is not there. So that's a problem I have. And I'm looking at this. I mean, I'm watching the video. I don't have it blown up on the screen, but it looks good on my view. I don't know how it's coming across on the stream, but it's 980 content, 980p content instead of 1080p. So just because it's a little deceptive, I guess, is what I'm getting at. And I guess we're getting off topic because now we're talking about technologies and we're really talking about the game, which I obviously won't be playing on the Xbox.
We can put that as a footnote for a later episode, possibly.
Right.
But yeah, the game itself does look good, despite the technicalities of the resolution. And being the third installment of the game's franchise, it ought to be good. It should be really well polished at this point, and it looks polished. Just watching the trailers and the gameplay footage, like is on the screen now. Uh, we just saw Geralt of Rivia take out several drowners, whereas in the first game it would probably feel a lot clunkier if you go back to it from playing The Witcher 3. Now, I haven't played The Witcher 3 yet, but it looks very fluid in the mechanics of him dashing around and swinging his sword. And there's a hot menu, although that's still being the Xbox One version, that may be different than, say, the PC. The consoles tend to use more rotary style hot menus.
Right, because you kind of have to.
Yeah, due to button limitation. And the gameplay should be excellent. I expect great things out of it. The Witcher 1 has been out for quite some time now and is considered old from a technology standpoint, given games have been evolving rapidly over a few decades. Um, it's still a relatively new thing, if you will, and
Right.
I'm not too familiar with any past adventures with the studio, so I'm not sure how much experience they have with other games, but they should be doing a good job. And once again, being the third installment, they will have that part fixed really well. But another thing they will have developed very well is the story. They have two other games worth of lore to play off of.
Yeah, and that's true. And I guess The Witcher 1, I didn't really recognize, and I'm not that far into it. Well, I don't know how far I am into it for the overall game because I'm trying to avoid spoilers.
I think
But
you're still in chapter one, but late in chapter one, maybe early chapter two.
right, so I think they had to write all their own stories, which it's you're right. Having all that other backstory should be useful. I mean, it should help out with that. I just know I did get tired which is part of the reason why I put the game down, which I think I am going to pick it back up. Is I was having to just point, click, 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 click. Like I like more like the Fallout 3 or which is also an old game or the Elder Scrolls from Oblivion on. Morrowind was I liked its gameplay, but it was kind of clunky to me.
Yes.
And that was one I tried to play on the Xbox, so
Yeah,
take that one as you will.
Yeah, and I know what you mean by that because that was my Xbox and my copy of Morrowind.
Which I still have.
Yeah.
You can come get it back whenever you want. But
I trust you a lot more than other people. It's just like someone borrowed my GameCube and it has since over the years became a classical console, and I still don't have it back.
right, you told me that story, so
Yeah, our viewers may not know that though.
all 0 of them so far. Well,
This will stay on the net for a while, so they may eventually see it.
well, yeah, and like I said, I think before we started recording, this is, an organized us just having a conversation instead of just us, having a conversation while we play a game and, an hour of silence that's not awkward to us, but would be awkward, later on if somebody was
yes.
trying to listen to us.
It's awkward to watch. I was experimenting with the YouTube advertisement system. I threw $2 into the bucket to advertise one of my montage videos,
Right.
and although I believe I did a fairly good job of the video being one of my earlier works so far, uh, the the effects of watching it, I forgot what I was going to say, but the excitement in watching it builds as you watch more of the game. It's to me, it's a video that it gets better later on in the montage. And if there's anything that seems like it's moving too slowly or it just is too quiet, it's just too slow paced and uninteresting to a viewer, it can be easy to just let go there. And awkward silences is one of those things that would cause a person to not watch
Right. And
because
there's
it not only feels boring, it just feels awkward to them.
yeah, and if you notice the most popular, or maybe I should say the most viewed YouTube videos. I don't know if they're necessarily the most popular, but they are the most viewed, which I guess maybe by definition popular.
Yeah,
It's
it is.
usually people, I don't want to say acting foolish because it's not. Some of them is just straight up acting foolish, but they're always animated. And I'm trying not to name any specific people because I don't want to name drop.
Yeah,
But
it's
nah,
exciting. It's exciting to their viewers, and there's an immediate kick out of it.
right. And
Um,
there's and it
and
doesn't
I
look scripted or anything. And compared to
right,
most YouTube videos I think are popular, this episode's been highly scripted. But
kind of. Most of this is off the cuff, and it
right.
wasn't going in the same direction I thought it might. But
I'm
hey, you
sorry.
gotta. Well, no, it was just I was thinking I was going to talk about points A, B, C kind of thing, but I just
Right.
walk with it, or run with it.
Well, we do literally have an A, B, and a C, several of them in the Google Doc.
We do, but they're kind of the broad
Mhm.
subject at hand. Like, hey, we have games we want to talk about, and A is one game and C is another.
Right. It's
I mean, it's not that granular yet.
well, I didn't want it to be that granular. I just wanted talking points,
Yeah, and
not
that's what I was expecting too. So I left
okay.
it at that.
So insert segue here. What about future Let's Plays? We've only got on this channel. There's only one Let's Play series that's gone home. Um, it was the first one that we had ever done, and it was, you know, it was fun. There was a lot of audio issues, like a lot. Like
Yeah,
if you
like
go
I
back
could
and
not
listen
hear
to it,
most of it, and that may or may not cause awkward, inappropriately timed comments or noises.
oh yeah, there was tons of them. Like
Yeah,
I can't
kind
remember
of.
can't remember exactly where it is, but there's like
It's
it's like when the big reveal happens that spoiler alert the sister is gay and running off, or before we find out that she runs off with her girlfriend.
yeah, and my
You
cat so happens to. I think it was my cat had decided it was a good time to be sick, and I went "ew" as he threw up.
yeah. So basically, it's like I love Lonnie, and you're like ugh. And I'm like, wait, what?
It's coincidental. It's a coincidental IRL, or I forget what that's called in a narrative written story, but it's basically where something happens outside of the themed world.
Yeah, I don't remember what
That
it's called, but there is a term for it. But it was
cable
just
came loose from my headset.
there was that, and then there was like um, you kept talking over all the narrations, and
and I wasn't even aware that they were playing at all.
Yeah. So we still have to come up with a better way to. I'm not sure how we're going to really do those because there's at least a 45-second delay. It seems. Um,
Yeah. Um, One thing that makes it a challenge is the fact that we are not physically in the same location in a studio setup. We're basically using our personal rigs,
right.
computers, and there is lag and delay. It's like I'm on one ISP that uses one technology, and you are on another.
Well, I
And
think
there's also the physical median.
the main problem is the transcoding because I'm pushing out like when I stream to Twitch, I push out, and this is way lower than I want to push out because it's it's not very high quality. I push out a 1080p, 30 frames at 3,500 kilobits a second.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got to take that image and then transcode it and then rebroadcast it. So even if it did very little processing, the fact that it has to recode it for transmission, it's you're going to have a delay.
Right.
So, and I have noticed on Twitch that there was an option to change to reduce that delay. It's mostly for conversations in the chat room, which I've noticed. Watching other people playing, someone will type something in the chat room, and then 2 minutes later they'll respond to it,
Right.
or but they didn't respond to it 2 minutes later. They saw it in the chat room and said something, responded to it immediately, but it didn't show up in the stream.
Right.
And so, like I'm, even right now, I'm watching, this embarrassingly slow me figuring out the puzzle on this cave game. And
Yeah, I just saw you die 2 times in the spikes.
yeah,
That's how delayed it is. Um,
but yeah, so that's something we've got to deal with, and and I've thought of a couple things like I'm not sure on the story-based games we might be able to just send audio, or jeez, and you're about to see me dive into the spikes again.
yeah, I actually saw this a few minutes ago. Was it the same video? Yeah, and you're about to jump into the robot. You're playing as the two kids right now on my screen.
Yeah,
Now you're on the robot.
well now I'm. It took me a while to get through this one because what did I have to do? There was different puzzles. I had to go all the way because this is near the end of the game, so I had to do a lot of backtracking. Like what you're about to see here, I'm trying to get up to that treasure chest.
Right.
Oh, not the treasure chest. Geez, the sarcophagus, which based on the preview you're not looking at. But the people who are in the pit, they're stuck in the pit. So I keep having to jump around back and forth trying to figure out how to get around.
Mm-hmm.
Although what's interesting is I think I managed to carry this shovel through the entire game. I don't know why, but I managed to hold on to it.
Yeah, I remember that when you originally played it.
Yep.
For Indiana Jones character.
So, but anyway,
Yeah, that's some one of the challenges for an independent podcast. That's why a lot of groups, if they do a podcast, if they are not there physically together, they usually have a setup where they can minimize the delay and make it in a professional manner as possible. Just I will drop a name here. Twit, This Week in Tech, they usually have people in studio, but when they do not, they have people on Skype. But it's just basic video and audio, just their webcam, their faces, their voices, and it's like they're there in a conversation like we are having right now.
Right.
They do not have that delay with the transcoding or the processing of video. It's just
Well,
like when we
there's
record a game, it has to process it itself and then upload it if it's going to be like a live stream to Twitch or YouTube.
right. Well, there's besides the fact that they've spent a lot more money than we
Yes.
possibly can.
Yes.
They're doing a Skype call over a different ISP than they're doing their streaming. And that's another thing too is they're streaming. They're doing a Skype call, so it's live. So like the conversation we're having now is is pretty much real time. There's a slight delay that we shouldn't really be able to notice, but that's what they're doing. But then they've got cameras pointed at the screen for the Skype call with the person in the studio, with the people in the studio, and then that's going into their transcoder, which is local. Then it's being transcoded for broadcast. Then it's sent out, and then I'm sorry, I said it wrong. It is transcoded. It's basically formatted properly. Then it's sent out to a third party who then just rebroadcast it. So there's no noticeable delay because right now, if we want to talk about something on my screen, well, we can't really do it in real time. And I'm watching on YouTube. The stream is degrading. What's coming back to me is degrading more and more. So I'm guessing Comcast is starting to throttle me.
That's very possible, and
Uh,
I noticed your audio from Skype is starting to crackle a bit.
oh, that's great. Um, but anyway,
We may have
so
to cut this short.
well, we'll see what happens, and it may clear up. It is getting closer to peak time, and I've been using pretty close to the maximum bandwidth. I'm curious. Let's see if I can do this. Yep, it's gonna pop up on the screen. Ooh, that was an issue. I was at 100% CPU, 91% memory.
Wow. Um, you don't happen to have Chrome open, by the way.
Oh, I do. Yeah, I know all about that.
Yeah.
I haven't had a chance to deal with it, but yeah, I keep bouncing between 5 point something and 10 on the sending, and I only have 10 megs up. So I keep capping out at my maximum throughput. But anyway, that's also more technical than I meant. But then again, I don't know who's gonna want to watch this, if anybody. So,
You gotta. We have to start somewhere if we want to
oh
do
yeah.
this, just like anybody else.
Well, it sounds pessimistic, but I'm not being pessimistic. I promise. Um, but honestly, I don't know. I know my I don't know who my target audience is. I know who I am and who what appeals to me, but I don't know, what would appeal to anybody else. And oh look, I finally got to sarcophagus, and I don't know what I'm doing. But but yeah, so I guess back on the future Let's Plays, you put down a couple here. Only one of them I've actually heard of.
That would probably be Deponia.
Right.
There's three of those.
So are all these? You've got Deponia. I don't even know.
Machinarium.
Okay, Machinarium and Valkyrie Chronicles. Are these multiplayer games or any of them multiplayer? I know Deponia's not.
Deponia and Machinarium, they're point and click. What is that genre again? I forget. It's
I think it's point and click. You mean the adventure?
yeah, adventure is probably
Yeah.
the best. It's not really adventurous, but I guess so. It's story based.
Well, that's what old school adventure games were. Is
Yeah,
you basically followed a story.
yeah. We'll call it old school adventure point and click for now.
Right.
At least I am. Machinarium, you're this little robot that gets tossed into the junkyard outside of the city, and you gotta find something. I've played it a little bit, but not a lot. And you got to explore the environment, piece together things like a puzzle. Unlike Deponia, most things are a big puzzle in the game with story mixed in, and it you get the story not via dialogue, but through sounds, beeps, boops,
Mm.
and a big one is little thought bubbles above the characters that usually picture something, like say a traffic cone.
Okay.
Um, and you can probably imagine a few things to do with the traffic cone. Like very early in the game, at the beginning of the game, you your guy passes himself off as one of the police guard, one of the police officer robots, the guard at the post near a bridge to enter the city. And the traffic cone gets used as a hat to make you look more like one of the officers.
Oh, I just pulled it up on GOG, Maturium Collector's Edition. Yeah, it looks like you're two robots in some kind of steampunk-ish world. I wouldn't call it straight up
Yes, it's
steampunk.
very. I would. Yeah, steampunk would be a major theme or a major part of the theme. Let me pull it up myself.
Yeah.
Shit.
So yeah, I didn't buy it when it was on sale because I've got like absurdly lots of games now.
Yeah, me too.
Let's just pull up.
But yeah, there you can see the bridge in like the fourth image
Right.
to the right. You see how the guard crossing the bridge has a blue hat that's shaped similar to a cone. Well, to the left of him, under the other guard,
Ah, you use
there's a
the
cone.
cone. You use the traffic cone to trick them into thinking you're a guard.
Hmm. And
That's
you
kind of
see
neat.
where the little guy is sitting.
Hmm.
Right by him is white paint. Um, and there's also some other elements in each scene that can help you transform it. So you can dye it once to be white, but you can alter it, make the paint blue, then dip the traffic cone in, combining these different items, uh, and that gives you the cone shape to the hat. But these guards, they also have lights at the tip of their hat. If you look at the post
Yeah,
above,
the light bulb directly
yeah,
above you.
hmm you
That's
got to figure out how to climb up there using limited resources. In this case, being a bunch of missing posts in the ladder to get to it, and tip that into the hat. And of course, our little guy can stretch himself to make him look tall.
yeah. I
But
like
that's
these kind
just a
of
little bit.
games where you have to
Yeah,
use the environment to get around. So there's definitely an option.
and I thought that would be a very good suggestion because even though it's a single player, a second person can look at it, offer an opinion, thoughts, help figure out what the puzzle is to the environment, and they can be interesting to watch because you, as a viewer, you can piece together the environment and try to solve the puzzle, even though you're not directly making the actions. It's
Well,
still involving in that way for the viewer. So I
cool.
thought that one would be neat.
All
Um,
right. And
and
Valkyria.
Valkyria Chronicles, it's more of an RPG. It's kind of set in a World War One or two um, environment, but there is some other bits and pieces to. It's definitely a story-based game. It's more a story than World War whatever, like Call of Duty. Uh, it's it, just from watching trailers. I have yet to play it. Um, I only recently installed it this week.
Okay.
Uh, it it might be a good one because it's story based and it's kind of an anime ish.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
looking at it now on Steam.
yeah. It has an anime ish art style and it looks really good. The color palette and shell shading is still very reminiscent of World War II, yet it looks unique. It crosses that line of old fashioned grittiness, World War II grittiness, and high color anime, and it looks interesting. It's got good ratings. I haven't really read the reviews, but I believe it to be potentially a good game to play.
Okay. Well, I don't have Steam up, so I can't wish list that, but I will bookmark it, and we'll deal with that later, unless I forget, and then oh well. Okay.
All right. The next category subject, we were going to cover some automotive stories, but they're
Right.
kind of tech stories as well. Um,
Well, she,
Automotive may be a big category that we will visit constantly, like technology and gaming.
right.
Some stories I wanted to cover, but I'm going to save until our next episode. Is Google has been working on these autonomous cars for a number of years now, and uh, they do have some controversy surrounding them. Some people are worried that the cars uh, may potentially crash into other people using the road or near the road, and there's a lot of gray area that is yet to be colored and defined with the whole ethics of things. I think one of them is you have the autonomous car is going down the road. Something happens that causes danger, like it's. I'm going to refer to the trolley problem. That would be a good thing to look up for people. Uh, what if there are some kids playing near the street? They run out into the street, um, and the car has to try to avoid them. And aestheticians and philosophers have been going over, okay, what should we do in this situation and what is mechanically best in order to execute this. Um, A, do you choose to hit the kids, or B, do you choose to try to make the car veer off with its charged cargo being other people? It could be one person, it could be four people. Um,
Yeah.
like, who do
Basically,
you
who do
kill?
you
It's the
kill?
trolley problem again.
Yeah.
That's a defining story to go off of. So that's something to look at for further reading. I may explain a short version of it in the next episode, but apparently, or allegedly, rather, some of Google's cars have been getting into accidents with I don't know, other vehicles, maybe parked vehicles, maybe buildings. I'm not sure yet. I did not get the chance to actually research the story before this podcast. And they are being accused of not being transparent about it. And Google is apparently being shy or mum on the details. And they do not want to admit if they have been having incidents with their autonomous vehicles
Well,
on these public roads.
I find that interesting because I haven't read it either, so we're really just talking out of our butts. But we're
Yes.
you, I've been told that recently Google, for to get some kind of certification or accreditation in California, they had to release their statistics, and it was a I want to say it was a pretty large number, but I don't know whose fault it was, because I've been in several accidents where I was sitting in a stop sign and someone hit me in the rear. Yes, I was involved in an accident, but no, it's completely not my fault. There's no way to avoid it.
Yes. It's just like one little bit that I have read at a point weeks ago is all accidents with Google vehicles so far have been resulted of human error, not the autonomous vehicles themselves.
Right.
But is it really? So there's that question. And without knowing more details and really digging into the subject, um, we could just end up going into speculation and opinions, and I don't want to get into that for this subject.
So no opinions on the opinion show. Got it. No, I'm
Well, what I
kidding.
mean is talking out of our butts, kind of thing.
I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. I was just kidding.
And I'm the literal person.
Right.
I do that.
But I did look up the trolley problem. I've heard a slightly different version. The version I heard was there's 5 people tied on the tracks. You could throw a lever and run over a baby. Was the version I heard. But this one just says, I think, Fat Man. I think it's the version they have here.
Yeah, the one fat man or the multiple people. Which track do you choose?
Right.
And it's an interesting dilemma to think about
Well, I mean,
in the context of it gives you 2 options, but are there really 2 options? And only 2 options.
well, this is interesting because if all you know is is with all of the things being equal, it sounds obvious to me. Kill one person instead of killing 5.
Right.
But I guess the question is, I wonder if this will turn into a. I guess if I keep reading, if this turns into a what if the, 5 people are evil or something like that.
Yes, there is a number of different versions of
Yeah.
the trolley problem, and there's a lot open to interpretation of what are the facts. It's but it is a classic example for estheticians
Oh, I remember the
to base
verse.
itself.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
the version I heard because somebody came up with a very smart idea. The version I heard was there's 5 people on the track, or you could flip a switch and go down and hit the side with the baby. Someone came up with a solution: yell for the 5 people to move out of the way.
Yes.
The version I heard didn't have them tied up, but I think that must have been an oversight.
Yeah, there's just looking at the Wikipedia page on the trolley problem alone, there is a number of different versions.
Yeah.
And there has been views on it by different judges, being one subset of people who even they look at it differently. They can look at it in different perspectives. It's a very interesting and very classical uh, subject.
Well, if you want to look at it from a legal liability issue, then you have to kill the 5 people. Because if you take an action that kills a person, that's illegal. If you take no action and it kills 5 people or 10 people or 1,000,000 people, well, you technically didn't cause it, even though morally and ethically that's not true.
Right.
If I could easily push a button and save 5 people or any number of people, and I don't push the button, then I clearly have some responsibility
Right,
for that.
right. And there's also the potential legal ramifications of not taking action. Um, and I believe for that very reason of
We were
well,
talking
you
about
did
the good.
something and still killed someone. Uh, you're illegal. You're in trouble for it.
We were talking about
But
like the Good Samaritan laws, where
yes,
in some places it takes different forms, but some places it's illegal to not help somebody you can. In other places, you're absolved. I don't think it makes it legal, but it's kind of like a free pass, kind of like our fair use laws, where if you try to help somebody, if the intention is to help somebody, but you end up killing them. But there's a weird thing, and I think the law's been changed. But when I first got certified in CPR, that actually made me liable if I tried to assist somebody in CPR and I did it wrong. So if I'm certified, and this has been 10 years or more, and like I said, I think they've changed the rules. But because I had been trained in how to perform CPR, if I did it wrong and you died, well, it's my fault.
and
But
that's probably why the law was changed or maybe changed because that would disincentivize you to even try to save someone.
right, I mean, if I saw somebody laying there, I'm gonna try to do something for them, regardless of the law. But it's a weird thing that because I've been trained and I do something and I hurt them, or I don't help them, by trying to help them, I cause more damage. I'm liable, but somebody else who hasn't been trained tries to help them, they've got less liability.
Right.
Which,
The reason for the training should be, though, that you're improving their odds, statistically speaking, of making it out for the better. But yeah,
right.
we
But
can
it
keep
falls.
going on
Yeah.
about this.
Yeah, so trolley problem. I think the solution is run over the 5 people and shoot the 6. There we go. Problem solved.
For those uptight people out there, he's joking.
Or am I? Bum bum bum.
Da, da.
Okay, so that really brings us to the end of the stories. I mean, I did want to talk a little bit, and this is mostly for my channel. I know you've got your other one, which I can't give out the URL because it's insane. You need to get a smaller one, a shorter one.
How about this? You can still get to it, I believe. I regained control for a little bit of my original youtube.com/Zeal of Sparta channel. There is a link on my channel page that goes directly to my usable page with all the content on it. And it's an extra step or two, but it's there.
So if you like Zeal of Sparta, go to youtube.com/Zeal of Sparta, and then don't subscribe to that page because it's worthless. But subscribe to the page it's linked to.
Because all the videos do end up on it in a playlist on that channel anyways.
Okay,
So watch it that way. I would still like to merge them. I wish I could.
Right.
Because I like that URL.
And if you like this, you could go to youtube.com/Joe of the West, or you can just tweet at us, the little bluebird thing at the same locations, which is on the screen, Joe of the West, and at Joe of the West and at Zeal of Sparta. But this is not my closing because I did want to talk about other show ideas mostly to put on my channel, but if you got something we want to talk about collaborating for both of our channels, that's fine too. And I lost my Google Doc.
Could you hold on for just 30 seconds to a minute on that?
Okay. We shall wait for 30 seconds.
Be right back.
And I wish I had some sound effects. Let's see. Wait. Oh, that doesn't make sense. That's really not going to work. So what's the phrase? Smoke 'em if you got 'em? Oh, wow, that's never gonna work. Can I try something else? Yeah, this is not a free site, so for those of you on the video, do not use this site because I do not believe they are royalty free. And I am looking for the site that I like for royalty free music. Wait, I remember what it is now.
I can wait as long as it takes.
And I am back.
Okay, welcome back. So, where were we? Oh, yes.
Top 10 lists to do.
top- top 10-ish. I don't even know if I want to do top 10, because, like, if I say, what is the top 10, I don't know, platform games, I mean, who can really say that?
It would be more of we could do more of our opinion things, like what I think are the 10 ugliest cars on the market
Yes, that would be,
right now.
you and my wife could probably get into an interesting argument about that.
Maybe we should bring her on to the podcast.
Yeah, she'll never join. Maybe that's not true.
At least as a guest.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, so that was just one idea. Top 5, top 8, top 6, top 1 of whatever I like and why. I do like the idea of doing how-to videos, because I have benefited for years from other people doing them, and I think I could do a fairly good production value, and kind of give back. It sounds kind of weird saying it that way, but give back to the community. That's another one.
Works. I like how-tos, really. I personally find them fun because they're useful and they're helpful to others. Not to sound cliche, but cliche things are cliche for a reason.
What a cliche thing to say. But they did. I mean, seriously, how-to videos on Ruby helped me get, or Rails, I should say, helped me learn the platform enough to get through my capstone project.
Right.
And mostly on time.
Right.
So.
They are good. They are definitely a good thing to have.
So, I mean, any others? We got a note here that says possible future story mentions.
Yeah, I thought I'd throw that in there to. It's like if we ran out of time or something, or had some subject we wanted to cover but did not have enough information to cover it.
Well, our goal was what, 15 minutes, and we're now an hour. We're 1.5 hours in, so
yes,
I think we've reached our goal, and we are not out of time.
Well, I mean, to not overdo it on the time, it was just something to give us. It was more or less a personal reminder for me to, hey, there's a subject I want to cover, but let's cover it later.
Cool.
That's it.
All right. So I guess this brings us to the end of the first episode. I guess back to the first question.
Yeah, the name.
Yeah, what do we want to name it?
I have no freaking idea. Trademark.
Trademark, copyright. Yeah, that's gonna work.
What the heck are we doing? Trademark. Coin that.
It's like, how can we talk for an hour and a half about basically nothing?
I did have one thought, but it's pretty silly. The J&J podcast. For reasons we really know.
Yeah, so an inside joke.
It's just like the Gallant joke on the Autoblog podcast.
Yep.
People eventually catch on.
Well, I mean, we could make that a question. The question of the week, day, month, however long it takes us to do another one of these. What do you think we should call us? Dear viewer, dear YouTuber, dear wherever else I happen to post this video.
And I will tell a certain few people about it. I've already basically just notified them that, yeah, we're doing a podcast.
You're talking about the Twitter feed?
Not Twitter, but some friends on the Xbox One and even a few people IRL.
Well,
People kept asking me, he was like, what are you doing this weekend? Because this is Memorial Day weekend. It is Friday before the Monday.
Which the timing has nothing to do with it, but we should have marketed it that way. The inaugural Memorial podcast.
There we go.
Okay, well, there could be a
Memorial
show
Podcast.
title.
Yes, that would be our show title, or it could be.
Well, I'm planning on chopping up these segments. I don't know if you've seen this, and it does kind of annoy me, but I think it's a good viewing size. Crud. Who are they? The CPU podcast or the CU podcast? Whatever they don't put their full podcast on YouTube, but they do. They chop them up into segments. So
That's one thing you could do. I've seen some podcasts where they would have the whole entire body of the podcast in its true glory.
true glory.
Later, oh, I thought you were about to sneeze.
No, I'm
When you
yawning.
go
I've been
back
sitting
to
here
your-
too long.
Yeah, that's why I had to go let the dogs out. Anyways,
Woof 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 woof.
you can download on your favorite podcatcher, whether it be Zune, iTunes, or something else, the entire episode in audio or video. Whereas those same podcasts, you can break it up into the segments, or they broke it up into the segments and posted it online on
Okay.
YouTube.
Well, I wasn't thinking about doing this as a download, but maybe.
I was just using that for an analogy.
I keep watching our watching now count change. It's pretty funny. It keeps going 2, then 1. Now it's back to 2 again.
Huh.
I'm one of them. I'm assuming you're the
You
other
sure?
one. Am I sure?
If it keeps going down, I haven't closed it.
Well, I keep navigating away, so maybe that's the problem. But anyway, but yeah, so yes, that's the viewer question. So we'd be very clear. Or a viewer question is, what should we name this series? This is not a series yet because there's only one, but maybe it will be a series. And 2, what would you like to watch us do as a Let's Play? We threw 3 or 4 out there. I will say if it's on GOG and it's on sale, 1, I probably already own it. And 2, that's where I get most of my games. Although I do get a lot of them from Steam. I do like Steam, but I will gravitate towards the GOG because I like the philosophy better. You know,
Yeah.
I don't post any of the games. I don't share them. I mean,
I get a lot of mine from Humble Bundle. I will plug them because I like what they do. The Humble
Yeah.
Bundle, or it's just humblebundle.com. Every once in a while, they will throw out a bundle of different games, often including the soundtracks to the games, and you can pay what you want for the games, but you can also send money to the developers or a choice of charities for the week. They started off with the Electronic Frontier Foundation and Child's Play when it first came out. Child's Play being a charity to give toys and games to kids in hospitals, and the EFF is a Electronics Rights Foundation. My words, they're not theirs.
right.
And the Red Cross and others. So that's where I get some of my games because I like donating to charity, using that as a medium.
Right, and I do like the humble bundle, and I haven't bought a lot from them, and I will say pretty much the only reason I haven't is when they do their bundles, their bundles usually mostly games I don't already own, or ones that I've already bought on sale because I'm insane apparently, but I do recommend especially if you can get a non-Steam version, which it sounds like I'm bashing Steam, which I'm not, because I do love Steam. I've got
Steam's amazing,
I've
but
got-
it's still restricted to certain, for lack of a better term, old-fashioned DRM control. They're still subject to that.
right, and I kind of understand because they're for some, and I used to buy games on CDs, and I remember back in the day there was all this, and it's still done today, but it was done on the CD, all this ridiculous draconian copy protection. because the idea was all your users are thieves. Which,
Pretty much.
okay,
That's what they're saying.
so it caused issues because I would have disks that would break all the time. All my games from floppy disk, not a problem because I had made a backup copy and stuck it on the shelf. In fact, usually I would open a game when I bought a new one. This is kind of dating me a little bit, but I'd open one on a floppy disk or on a bunch of floppy disks. I would copy those floppy disks, put it back in the box, and stick it on my shelf.
Well,
And
in
that's
that same,
and I played and I played from the copies.
yeah, the same thing could be said. It's just like Mechanized Assault and Exploration, a DOS game that you or me, probably you, because I was so young at the time, purchased, and it being a DOS game, it only ran in DOS. Well, it eventually, over the years, and up through high school, for me even, it was wrapped up in an emulator, and I had it on a flash drive. So I can take my game that I had for a long time and still play it. I could just carry it on the flash drive and play it on a different computer.
Right.
Like when we had a little let's play the games at the post after school event kind of thing for a club. I took it and played it there without me having to carry my machine, my big heavy brick of a machine that runs Windows 7 at the time or XP and not DOS.
Yeah, I love this
Anyways.
game. It's another one I've already bought.
Which one?
Max.
Oh yes, that's one of my favorite games. I still play it from time to time. I bought a GOG version of it because it had a better running emulator wrap. I think it was DOSBox or a newer version of DOSBox. I think I may have used DOSBox in the past.
Yeah, they went in and these versions these old games they've taken DOSBox and you could basically optimize it for the game. And I didn't actually do that when I was using DOSBox regularly because it was kind of a pain. But no, you can have your own copy of DOSBox and just launch a new instance every time. But yeah, this one's from 1998, so I doubt it would even. I doubt you could even install it. I do remember on my CD version, it came with DirectX 5, which should tell you really how old it is.
We're on like DX12, I think.
I think so.
11,
I know 11's
may be
out.
coming out. Yeah, 11's out, but 12's coming soon.
Yeah. So, but anyway, the weird thing about it is DirectX is designed to basically DirectX has, or not anymore, but it had all the previous versions. So if you put DirectX 5 on your machine, it would be able to play DirectX 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, all the way back to, all the versions.
Yeah, it's legacy compatible.
Right, and it still does that to an extent. But starting with DirectX 8-ish, around there, it no longer identified it. It no longer would run DirectX 5, at least not. It would run it. It ran it in emulation. So when the game popped up, it would look at the version. It'd have like 8 or 9 or 10, and it would go, "Your DirectX is too old," and you would have to. Yeah, it was hilarious because now if you let it run through its process, it's fine. But in the past, it would uninstall your current version of DirectX and then put DirectX 5 on it and break every other game on your computer.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Horrible.
So every time I reinstalled the game, I had to remember, don't let it install DirectX. So, but I can also imagine it's hard-coded if someone tries to install DirectX 5, just you don't do anything. Because it literally removed all the files, and all your games are junk. But
Yeah, that sounds like a nightmare.
yeah, but the problem I run into, I guess the only gripe I have with Steam, which I guess isn't really a DRM gripe, is it supposedly was saving all my game saves up in the cloud. Now I notice with like Elder Scrolls, because it's insane, I make a new game save, so I've got like 200 or 300 game saves, which are on my computer, but only the last dozen or so are on the Steam cloud. Well, I backed up all my documents and everything, and wiped my computer and reinstalled it. Well, I'm going back to play some of these older games that I played before on Steam and made some good progress in, and the save data's gone.
Yeah, I keep running into that problem. That's just to sidetrack a little bit. That is one reason I do not play too many games within the same time period. I like to completely finish them because the saves break eventually. It's just like I had to start The Witcher over. That's why I'm still in chapter 2, is I had to start all the way over. And that's just one of the games.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess it's a minor gripe, because I guess I should technically it should be on me to make sure that the game save data has been backed up. But
Right, but if there's a cloud feature there built into Steam, you kind of expect it to work. It's just one of those things where if you offer a feature, it's nice if the feature offered
actually
works
works.
and works with a reasonable expectation of it being there
Right.
when you need it. And I have had some cloud games just up and disappear on me altogether, and then I literally, in frustration, just not play the game for like 2 years. That's
Well,
why I'm behind on The Witcher. I stopped it for like a year and a half.
well, I'm kind of sad. I had a PS1 game, it's Final Fantasy Tactics, which has been re-released, but it's a modified version. But I ended up saving right before a boss battle, without any recovery materials left, and I was very much about dead. But I didn't know I was going into a boss battle. So I played it over and over and over, trying to get through this boss battle, and I kept getting killed. And finally, I just, I guess rage quit, and I didn't like literally rage go rah, but
You just, yeah, not quite rage quit, but taking an extended leave due to frustration.
yeah. But I've never came back to it, and I've cracked the disc, so I'm never gonna be able to go back to it unless I go and buy somewhere else. I have looked on eBay, but there's the original Final Fantasy stuff is pretty expensive.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's that really just DRM for all intents and purposes is draconian. It's more like an oppressive tyrant than some well-meaning security guard trying to keep buffoons from stealing intellectual property. It's more regressive than progressive in that
Right,
sense.
and
It's just
everybody.
like if I did not have a copy of Max on that USB drive, which is smaller, more durable, and more portable than a CD, I would have lost that original game that I've had for so many years
Yeah.
because that disc eventually got scratched up because its hard plastic case cracked, it fractured, it busted, and it just got rubbed around in a drawer or fell out or something. I can't remember now. But ultimately, if I did not make a backup of it, it would have been gone. It was for personal use. Um,
Right, and I'm
but
pretty
it
sure.
would have, but in newer DRM terms, that is impossible, or breaking their supposed terms of service. It's
Right.
just like Assassin's Creed, made
Oh,
by Ubisoft, uh, ran into the ground by Ubisoft. The reason I say that is the run into the ground part is I have legitimately bought all or most Assassin's Creed games up until the fourth one. The only one I can play is the first one because that's before they forced UPlay on it. And I
right.
also have the Steam version of it and the Xbox 360 version of it. I have both. I bought them two separate times. The Steam version I bought on sale, of course.
Right. Well,
But
that's the only version I have is the first one because of UPlay. Because it, I don't know. I've got. Well, actually, I may have Assassin's Creed 2 now because they did remove some of it, but still, you're not the only person I've heard that's had problems with UPlay
yeah,
because you know.
yeah,
But
UPlay is an overbearing DRM monster. It is absolutely horrible, and frankly, it just pisses me off.
hmm, that's
Because
that's
I got
odd
halfway
words from
through
you.
Assassin's Creed 2, and then just one day I'm unable to play it. I will start it up, go through the bull that you play is, and for not even a split second, it will blink and say, "Thank you for playing Assassin's Creed 2." It's like you never even launched, you crashed yourself, and there's no breadcrumbs left for me to know what went wrong, and
Yeah.
it's useless. And the same thing happens with every other Assassin's Creed game too, with the exception of the first one because you play in its um, downright stupendous uh, DRM is not applied to Assassin's Creed 1. It's just ridiculous. It's overbearing and it's garbage. My games are useless, let alone the fact that I paid the same amount of money anybody else would for a disc or otherwise. I have the digital copies, and the DRM is limiting. It's
Well,
restricting.
you also, from what I understand, you still have to have UPlay for the disc.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I'm pretty sure if you buy the disc, because for
Oh,
for several years now, the disc doesn't really mean anything.
yeah,
It's
you're right. You're right. The disc does not mean anything. It's just a delivery device.
well, it's not even that, and it. I was actually having this conversation with somebody else not too long ago about how the the games are a lot of software, but mostly games is broken when you buy it. So you get the disc and it's not even a playable version. You have to get on the internet and download a bunch of updates before you
Right,
can touch it.
and there's a whole lot of conspiracy theories out there about why. Uh, it's just like some games you have day zero bugs that need to be fixed, or a day zero patch that needs to be applied.
Right.
Um, it's just like, hey, my disc for Battlefield whatever came in. It came in on its launch day. Installed it, and here comes a 3 GB patch.
Which I do feel bad because there's still. I mean, a 3 GB patch I could download with no trouble here, but there's people where that's an issue. Like my father-in-law, they live out in the country. They live way out in the country by choice because they like it.
Which
But
is good.
he's got his best internet solution is a satellite internet, and if he was to have a 3 GB download, he's over his limit for the month.
Several times over, I believe.
Well, they've upped it because now you can't function without having at least more than a couple of gigs. But I think his limit's like 10 GB a month, and then they throttle him way down and charge him extra money. So let's put it this way: he watched. I think he said he watched 4 hours of Netflix when he first got it, and then spent the rest time, doing books for his church and what was the other thing he does? An email. That was all he did. Books for the church, email, and watched 4 hours of Netflix. And
Netflix being a video streaming service is data intensive.
well, yes, and he went way over his data cap,
Right.
and so
And in that sense, the ISPs are not keeping up with the times, the realistic demands, anyways, of people's needs. And this is
but the point
mostly
is,
an American problem. But go ahead.
yeah, but we could spend hours talking about that, so we're not. But it's the point is he can't go and buy PlayStation or Xbox games or pretty much any game now on a disc. Like if he goes to Target or goes to Walmart or even if he goes to a game store, which I'd say most of the people buying games from Target or Walmart would be the kind of people who don't need to have a big patch, a day 1, day 0 patch.
Right.
They need to plug it in and it works. And I'm not opposed to downloadable content later on, but yeah. I still think when you bring a game, you get a disc, that disc should function. It may not have, like I think I saw a thing on The Witcher 3, you buy the game, there's like 16 parts you're going to get to download later. I think it's mostly a marketing thing, but I'm still okay with it because I'm convinced that I could go pay my $60, get The Witcher 3, and play it today.
Right, which that should be the main driver for going digital, not from some paranoid company thinking, I forget who said it, but it was some bigwig at EA or some other company that said 80% of the copies of the games are from pirates.
And that simply can't be true. I mean,
exactly.
I guess it technically could be true, but it's not true.
Technically, in the Twilight Zone, maybe, but it's preposterous. I think it's ridiculous, and it causes more problems than it fixes.
So my question would be, okay, so you're saying 80%, or this guy, not you personally, is saying 80%'s bootleg, is pirated copies. One, how do you know that? If you know it from, if it's just an estimate, if it's a calculation, I question your calculations. If you know it because, and this actually happens, and it's not that hard to do, if you've got it written into your software to phone home under certain circumstances, or perform some other action if you're a pirated copy, then you also should be able to write your software to shut itself off.
Right.
Or send me the IP address. Do what the RIAA does when they, I've got a game, it thinks it's pirated. Send the IP address of where it's being run at, because it's most likely that computer's connected to the internet.
Right.
So, and I've got several examples. I mean, there's easy, Pokemon's got a famous one where if it plays like normal, except there's a line when you go to a ship. It's one of the early Pokemon games. Like, you're about to get on one of the ships, and I don't know what the guy normally says, but he says on the pirated version, we're glad you're enjoying this game. Buy it or die. And this is like on a kid's game. This kid is a Pokemon game. What was it? There's a game developer tycoon type game where if you've got a pirated version, it plays like normal, except you start losing money like crazy because your game's getting pirated.
Yeah, I remember
So
that one.
yeah, and it's hilarious because people go on the forums and say, "How do I stop people from pirating my game?" and
Yeah, give
it's
them a
the only,
taste of their medicine.
so you don't have to be a jerk about it. Or I think it was it the first Ninja Turtles game? I'm pretty sure it was. Basically, yeah, it's the first Ninja Turtles game where you can play the entire game, but you get to the Shredder, and the Shredder's invincible. You know,
That's funny.
but then when emulation and the piracy gets better, yeah, those things go away. But if they're silent, if they're simple phone home stuff, or simple, like it took years for people to figure out the Game Tycoon one,
Hmm.
and it took years for the emulators to get good for the Game Boy one, because that's what it was doing. It was detecting that it was in an emulator,
Right.
for that message to go away. So, but
Yeah.
I guess the thesis of what I'm saying is, I think you'll get more sales if you one charge a reasonable price, which I don't think that's really the dispute here, and
That's more of a
don't
given.
don't don't treat your customers like criminals. Yes, you will have customers that are criminals, but very much like at regular department stores. You go into any regular retail store, there is a line item in their budget for shrink, for stuff that's stolen or lost or damaged.
Right.
They assume it's part of the business, and they wrap their business around it instead of spending all their time and alienating everybody. Because you could stop almost 100% of shoplifting if you hired security guards and had them follow them around, armed guards following everybody around and treating them like criminals.
And have one guard following each and every customer all over the place. Is like, are you going to steal that? Are you going to steal that? Huh? 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 You better buy that. If you're going to pick it up, you better buy it. Huh? Huh?
Yeah,
Treating them
and
in
it
that kind of fashion is just ridiculous, and that's kind of how some of these software companies are going at it. Some of the bigger offenders being Ubisoft. Ubisoft is probably one of the worst, and EA is also another one. It's
what was that? Where did I send that? I sent you a long time ago a Ubisoft a cartoon about Steam and Ubisoft.
oh yes, the
Oh, what was it
the
called?
one with the crazy looking dude. It's all XKCD. Um, yeah, crazy dude in his underwear and all that. Let's see. XKCD. By the way, I may get dog noise here in a minute because of cars and stuff.
Mm. Oh yeah, I forgot about this. You play as a rootkit.
Yeah, yeah. That's right. That's another thing. From what I understand, DRM enabled software
But it doesn't have
has
to.
ways of breaking security, therefore causing a persistent threat to users, to consumers.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to, but I guess it is a good way. I mean, I hate it, but I guess it's a good way because you can. Because if you're hiding like a virus, well, I mean,
Aren't you at that very point the evil? That make if a company's going to do that, they're making themselves the bad guy because they're breaking things at that point. They're subverting the user's systems instead of providing them a product, which is in our subject case here a game. You
like,
launch the game to play it and enjoy it. You shouldn't buy the game and then uh, get screwed over for it. It's like they're buying your product. It's like if I want to go buy a table at an IKEA and bring it home after I bought it, I don't want it suddenly bringing out a hammer to break into things and see, is like, hey, is there another table that they stole in here somewhere? Like it just came alive or something. It's just ridiculous, is what I'm trying to get at.
Right. I wish I could. How did I share that with you? Was it on Facebook?
Um, the XKCD comic, I think it was Skype. It's been a while.
Yeah. Well, I was going to share that, but I guess not. But yeah, it was really really.
It was very apt. Uplay. Let's see if I can find it in my history. But yeah, I can't find it. But anyways, yeah, Uplay is the worst offender in my book. Anyways, I've had more issues with them than anybody else because it's
Right.
ridiculous. I have spent hundreds of dollars on their product, and I will not buy any single product ever again from them. At least, and not until they fix their crap that is disabling me from using a product that I paid for. And they should not hide behind licensing and intellectual property as a right to do whatever the heck we want with your machine. No, it's you're selling a product. I should be able to use it. Otherwise, you should just, as a company, die. Because why do you even exist? It's like you're there to make money by selling a product. You're basically being a criminal. This is an opinion, it's not official law, at least not yet. But you're not letting them use the product. It's like, yeah, we're going to sell you the product, but you can't use it.
Well,
So-
the argument they make, pretty much everybody makes, is, it's you're not buying the product. You don't, and this is what's sad is you're not buying the game. You're buying a license to use it under these terms, under these circumstances. And I could almost live with that if they were transparent about the terms. Like if the term is going to, which I guess nobody would buy it, if the term is going to be, we're going to install a rootkit on your system, well, there's no way. I'm not buying it.
Right.
Or I could see someone going, well, I'm going to buy a we're going to put a rootkit on your system. That would encourage people to pirate it, because then they could pirate it and remove the rootkit, and the pirated version would be cleaner than the, fully legit version. Which is sad. That's normally backwards, or actually it's not normally backwards, but it should be backwards, because usually when you download pirated software, it's got other junk in with it. It's got other malware wrapped in it.
Right. They're disincentivizing legitimate people to break the rules. It's just like I'm not a lawyer, by the way.
Are you
For
sure?
those people listening. No.
I thought everybody was confused. You're not a lawyer?
Oh gosh, where was it going? What they're doing is disincentivizing legitimate customers to not buy their product. It's just like GM really irritated a bunch of enthusiasts on some forums recently by suggesting, oh, people don't buy cars, they're just licensed, they're ours. Okay.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that.
So if you own our car, why don't you pay my freaking car payments and all the maintenance forever and ever and ever? Oh, also pay for the insurance to protect your product. Because it's not mine, why should I have the responsibility of paying for it?
Well, that's a lease, what you just described.
Yes, what he was talking about was basically a lease. But he said...
Yeah. It was talking about, wasn't he talking about the software? That was the issue, because people were talking about software upgrades.
Yes, that was in part of it. some automakers, GM being a big one, and the Automotive Alliance, which includes most of the major ones: GM, Toyota, Nissan, Ford, Porsche, Volkswagen. It's a group representing them, but that group and GM, especially as themselves, participating as themselves, are trying to lock owners of the car. They're owners because they pay for the car, they buy it. They should be able to do anything with it legally as long as they're not becoming some ridiculous danger to the public. Like, hey, let's widen my vehicle way past normal road widths.
Well,
That's
yeah,
basically illegal because it's no longer a road legal vehicle. But what they're going for is, hey, we are we have intellectual property on the vehicle, but we're going to use that as an excuse to overreach and say independent shops cannot work on our vehicles because it has proprietary software on it. Um, so your
well, Apple makes that same argument about their phones.
they're a little different, but it's like, hey, my coil spring collapsed on my car. Um, okay, that's a mechanical piece that can be unbolted and replaced. But no, the way they're going about the whole, hey, we have IP in the vehicle, you cannot replace your coil spring. Or in your mechanic down the street, he can't replace it either because we want it to be illegal. We should be the ones to work on it because it's our intellectual property. Well, not really. Anybody can basically change out the coil spring.
Right. No,
Or
I agree with you.
yeah, but that's where the GM rep or executive got into the hot water is saying, "Hey, we own your vehicle." No, with no mention to the lease. He basically described a lease, but he was way off base with it. But yeah, I'm getting into a ranty mood, as you may tell.
Oh. No, it's our rant segment. Did you see it in the notes?
No,
Oh, okay. Ooh,
we are winging it.
and we are on. My background video just ran out. It was 2 hours and 13 minutes, and it didn't have enough time.
Huh.
Oh noes. What are we going to do?
Well, we do need to cut it short.
Cut it short, cut it long. Yeah, so that's
put this episode in the can.
yeah.
Please.
Another twit. I mean, another.
That's what they say. Is
This weekend. What the hell are we talking about? There, I kept it clean for you. So, yeah, I think I'm gonna post this episode as is, and remind the viewers, if any of them managed to get this far, the questions are: what should we call this? What would you like to see us let's play? And heck, just any comments, anything, good, bad, ugly, whatever.
and there's one thing you could do for the notes in the description down below. Link the times with the description of the segment. It's like if you want to
Right.
jump to this segment, go at it.
Yeah, but I won't be able to do that tonight because
That's just something for future reference. I'll plug someone else. Auto Line. Yeah. Auto Line today. I forget what they call themselves for some reason.
I think I could give you access to do that if you wanted. I don't know if you want to even go that far, but
Yeah, we'll talk about that one later, I suppose.
okay.
But yeah, I'm fine with for our early all intents and purposes. I think it would be good to have an unedited version and maybe a segmented version or copies of that broken down into the segments.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm planning on doing. Is basically that, breaking up the segments. But I'm gonna at least leave the full version on for a while, because maybe cut out some of the ums and the uhs and the
Yeah,
bathroom
it's
break or
okay.
whatever that was.
Yes, it was. Because I had a highly caffeinated 12-ounce cup of coffee like 3 hours before.
Ah, well, yeah. So we got to get ready. We're gonna go on our trip for our Memorial Day stuff, and we can talk about other stuff off the air. But as I say, another one's in the can. If you like what you saw or like what you heard, mostly comments, subscriptions, likes, you know, all three, dislikes, whatever. And we will see y'all later.
And if you'd like to see or hear more, if you mostly listen to this podcast of ours, whatever we are going to call it, chime back in later. Is there any type of videos you would like to plug, Joey, before I plug mine?
Um, no, just go to my channel. I've got the only complete one is the Gone Home, and I've got a couple of how tos. But just go to my channel and you'll see all the playlist. Is there one you wanted me to bring up?
No, I was just wanting to let our potential viewers know what kind of content you had on your channel, like the how-tos you mentioned.
How tos, a let's play, some of the stuff I've done before.
A lot of
Um,
it's electronics and computer science related, if I'm
yes,
calling that correctly.
yeah. I think most of the videos now are, well, let's look at it. There's Arduino-based projects that I worked on. Um, I think the one that I did the most is I called it a heart art demo, but that's because that's what this was a demo for a class. But yeah, just check it out. And this is we're very much in the spaghetti stage, throwing it on the wall and see what sticks. So, the spaghetti comments are ready.
We are playing with our pasta.
Yeah, there are no creepy pastas though. I don't think I have a sexy enough voice to pull off creepy pasta readings.
Don't even think it has to be that characterization. Anyways, but yeah, you can be found at Joe of the West on Twitter and Joe of the West on YouTube, correct?
Yep.
Okay. And me, I am at Zeal of Sparta on Twitter. I am fairly active there. Some days I'll be very active, others I'll be not so much, but I'm fairly regularly on there posting about car stuff, technology, gaming, um, some engineering related stuff. Uh,
A big fat
Usually it's just stuff
YouTube
like
eating a person, or Google Chrome eating a person.
yeah, I saw that today and I thought it was kind of funny because of the Ram reference. Um, but yeah, I can be found there regularly. That would be the easiest place to contact me because I have notifications turned on my phone all the time, except for my off hours. Uh, and I do post videos on YouTube. Um, let's see, it should be linked. My YouTube channel is linked.
On your Facebook. I mean, on your Twitter.
No. I thought it was, but it's not. It will be later today, or by the time people see this podcast in its final uploaded form. And yeah, you will find my channel linked there. And I do mostly gaming videos right now, but I will branch out. I have one car video just because I posted a video taking a quick look at a car that a family member was interested in, and they were unavailable to look at it. But most of it right now is gaming, let's plays. Like I have a G mod, a Gary's mod, murder mode, um, you got to find the murderer, whatnot. Skip over that. Um, I have a Titanfall video. My big thing right now is Destiny, the game. I have a few videos on that, montages mostly, that I've been doing for fun. Um, and I am starting to do quick tips in the game. Like the three ghosts that you can find in the Vestian outpost, which is in the reef. I noticed nobody else had any information on it, so I decided to post a video of myself. It's just a quick tip at less than a minute and a half long, and I show where the three ghosts are in the reef. Um,
Which I'm showing now, but I'm not going to show the whole thing because you want them to watch your video. But yeah, there's a
jump into the a Destiny Fontage or the Vehicular Menace. Those are two of my more polished videos. I basically experimented with those.
the Destiny Funtage.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
this
named it-
the video that makes me want to never play against you on Destiny.
and I can't remember
The-
if that one was the Fontage was one match or multiple matches, but I know the Vehicular Menace, that was all from one match, and it was all in put together via a timeline. I didn't jumble them up like some people do, which is one reason it gets better towards the end of the video. Is that's the more interesting part of the matchup, but the rest of it was worth keeping in my eyes at the time.
Yeah, I think most people do they do the most impressive parts first, and then they show the rest of it, or they don't show the rest of it at all. But yeah, it's a lot of them. Like I said, I don't play Destiny, but it's obvious when they break up the timeline a lot.
Right. I generally prefer to keep it in a chronological order, but I will probably change that up later on. Just because, back to the keeping people interested subject that was early on in the podcast, if it seems too slow or too dull or awkward at the time, people lose interest. And I've noticed a lot of my views for certain videos will be shortly lived. I'll have a low average because people will see so much of it and not really get into it until later. I mean, they don't see the most interesting part, so their attention just diverts. In fact, I read an article the other day which seemed lower than I would have expected. Only people's typical attention span these days are 8 seconds long, where we're better able at multitasking. So it's kind of you get one as a trade-off for the other in our the age of information, rapid information. But yeah, I like putting up videos there, and it's just fun to make. So I post one up every once in a while, and I want to get on a regular schedule, and I will start doing more commentaries.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we are approaching 2.5 hours, so we really should wrap this up because we've only been saying that for the last hour.
Indeed.
And
This has been Zila Sparta, and
Joe of the
That's your
West, and we're out.
our first podcast is in the can. Good night, people.
Alrighty.